Ciosit, li. It's not only the words that matter, but the way in which they're conveyed, and by whom. I believe that the president did ask John Kelly what to say in his call to the families of the men killed in Niger. The general conveyed the words that had comforted him when his son was killed. And they were good words, spoken between two men who have military backgrounds, who view service in the military as a higher calling, an honorable calling. Had a member of the military told Maisha Johnson that her husband knew what he was getting into, it would have been received in a different spirit. I can imagine, though, that hearing those words spoken by Trump, someone who has never known the meaning of the word service and sacrifice, they must have sounded very glib and dismissive. The words and the subsequent storms surrounding them have only served to cause the family of Sergeant David Johnson more grief. Perhaps the president should forego phone calls in future and stick to letters. It might be easier to feign empathy and sincerity on paper. Elena Andrews is co-Trump's Gold Star exception Bronx. I am curious as to what John Kelly thinks of Trump's past treatment of the Gold Star family of slain Muslim Army Captain Humayun Khan. If Kelly is going to bring up past issues in regards to the disrespect that Rep. Frederica Wilson has insisted occurred and which has been confirmed by the family of the widow of slain Sergeant David Johnson, then Kelly might want to make a comment on why Trump can't seem to relate to non-white families of slain military service members. Kevin Valentine. Poignant viewpoints. Onslow, Iowa. John Kelly's reply to President Trump is what one soldier expresses to another soldier about his soldier son's death and is probably fitting in that context. I have heard that concept expressed on NPR by a soldier, saying they are professionals and know what they have signed up for. However, when speaking to a pregnant, grieving widow, you must come to her, from her point of view, a wife who has just lost her husband and the father of their family. Therefore, the Congresswoman is not wrong. It was not the thing to say. We must choose our words carefully, befitting the situation and circumstance. Also, if one is conveying condolences to a parent or a child, you differ from their viewpoint, as well. Marilyn J. Gray. Dubious Dignity. Manhattan. I am sorry that the Daily News didn't more highlight the speech given last week by President George W. Bush. Bush upset, but not naming names. October 20th. Bush's speech was powerful and inspiring. There was implied criticism of President Trump and of others who are destroying the very fabric of this country, but he didn't mention any names. He didn't need to. But he did harshly condemn any form of bigotry and destructive nationalism. I wish more attention had been paid by the media to the very important contents of the speech. Süddeutsche Unified Front. Melbourne, Australia. How confused is the political world when ex-President George W. Bush speaks up against the present leadership in Washington? Although no names are mentioned to condemn bigotry, white supremacy and fake news should be the cry of all politicians present and past, although it seems these concerns are not being addressed fully by the present leadership. When one of the Republican senior figures condemns the present Republicans, I am not sure whether to be pleased that it has started, or saddened that it has taken so long. Maybe that shining city on a hill is being relit and the fire might burn strongly enough to make changes. Dennis Fitzgerald. Contradictory lives. Monroe, NJ. To voice us you Frimer, you can turn your remarks around. Why do those who want stronger gun control find it perfectly acceptable to perform abortions? Kathleen Anvord. Fatal Equation. Brooklyn. Self-driving car hackers, terrorists, death. Marty Schatzman. Cleanup crew. Richmond, Virginia. Like many that tell it like it is, my letter and many others making suggestions of how New York City can get the subways and streets cleaned up never get printed. Although I do not live in the city, I was born there, Brooklyn, raised in the Bronx and still have relatives there, I keep up on what's going. My suggestion was to get those able people on welfare off their duff and put them to work cleaning up the subways and streets, pay them from money that NYC pays those phony people in office that don't do anything on a big fat salary. Marty Goodman. Protector Detector. Bronx. A 13-year-old boy was arrested after he brought an unloaded gun into his Bronx public school just days after a student was fatally stabbed in another Bronx public school. Metal detectors should be mandatory in all schools, as they are in all courthouses and airports. What's the problem? The delays it will cause being on time for class. To Linda Celentano, who's paying Yonkers bravo to New York State for becoming the first state to have free tuition for state and city colleges and universities for residents. However, I am an older, part-time SUNY student who must work to be able to pay rent, food, bills, electric, gas and more. Would it have been so difficult to extend the tuition break, or at least a portion of it, to us part-timers as well? I wish I could attend school full-time, but I can't. I wish I could get free tuition or even a break, but I can't. Where does this money come from for free tuition? The taxpayers of which I am one. Somehow this doesn't seem right. Eliza Burton A. Heroswords, Glendale. I would like to thank Jason McDowell for his service in the Iraq War and the good work his unit did. Y1 vet salutes NFL kneeling, October 4th. I am very disappointed in everything our current president says regarding the Iraq War. You guys are heroes. Mary Hebel. Ignorance ISNT always bliss. Brooklyn. I find it ironic that, despite living in a democratic republic, many Americans don't know our own representatives. Of course, we would know the president, but members of Congress and senators, I realize that we citizens should research this information on our own, but I've simply never been motivated enough to do so. Kids should learn this stuff in high school to prepare them to formulate their own political opinions when they reach the voting age. I feel that people pay too much attention to the controversies of our current president, and should instead devote that time to learning about our more local representatives in order to improve our country. Sean Montfort. Curb your language. North Hollywood, Caliph. Voicer Joseph Human ended his blistering takedown of Larry David with a terse "what a piece of feces." A little editorial advice, Joe. The Daily News adds our names to the ends of these letters. There's no need to sign your name twice. Love ya, LD. Glad you're back. James Montalbano News. We have a problem. Staten Island. Shameful, shameful editorial even for Daily News standards. Houston's Justice Street, October 20th. To malign a fine pitcher and his team is the reason why everyone detests the Yankees except their fans. The sheer arrogance of this is breathtaking. Francine Schwartz. Drop the mic Afton. NY. Mike Francesa cannot retire soon enough. His arrogance grows with each passing day. On Tuesday during his call-in show he repeatedly berated the listeners who dared call in. The first caller didn't agree with Mike's opinion on a broadcaster, and Francesa was quick to say, "We're talking Yankees today, I'm not talking about this today." It got worse from there. The next caller began by referencing the noise at Yankee Stadium for Game 3. Francesa was all ears until the caller went on saying he was watching the game with his partner. Francesa cut off the call and said, "That was going nowhere. Where does he get the audacity? Literally thousands of people could step into his job and did just fine, without alienating portions of his listeners. The sports talk world, and New York, will be much better off when he's gone. Maybe I will start listening to WFAN on a regular basis again. Good riddance." Thomas Tuttle.